Hi, I'm Brie Lachlan and welcome to week 6 of A Better You and Me. Now, how many of you have a small startup business alongside your day-to-day grind? Well, this episode is for you. Gaining momentum with a small startup business can be challenging, and a strong marketing strategy is at the heart of the ones that get it right. Well, joining us today to give us a hand and to share with us some clever marketing tools is Nicola Dore from Nicola Dore Consulting. Thanks for joining us today.
No worries, very pleasure.
So Nick, how important is it to identify your key customer base?
Well, I think that's the critical thing before, in the early stages of planning your business, it's really critical to work out who your ideal customer is. So not just one demographic or, everybody would want my product, so I'm just going to market to everybody. It's breaking it down to like the specifics. It's a 34-year-old woman, she's got 2 kids, she lives in the eastern suburbs, she hangs out at sport on the weekend, goes to a local cafe, that sort of thing. The more you know about this person, the easier it is going to be to target them.
So basically you want to know what they're eating for breakfast.
Exactly.
And how do we know how to identify these customers with regard? You have a worksheet that you can work through.
Yeah, so one of the things that I do with my clients is we sit down and we go through, it's a few pages and it takes a little while, but we work out, right down to what's keeping your ideal customer up at night and what you can do to actually solve their problem. So by having those really small details, it makes it so much easier to market to them and to know where to find them.
Yes, and speaking of knowing where to find them, the reasons that this is so important to identify them, you need to be in the spaces that they're in.
Exactly, and you don't want to be spending a fortune on marketing if you can actually target your ideal customer and be able to use a lot smaller budget, but get a much bigger result.
Absolutely. Okay, well, following on from identifying the customer, how important is branding?
Branding is also really important. You want to make sure that you're not conflicting with your personal brand as well as your business brand. With so much competition out there these days, people are actually buying you. They're not buying your product or service because they can buy that from someone down the road. They're buying you and what you bring to the table. So making sure that what you're doing in your business life doesn't contradict what you're doing in your personal life. A great example of this is sports people, models, TV presenters. You don't normally see them being a brand ambassador for something that's completely different to what they do in their personal life. So they wouldn't be doing vegetarian branding, but then be photographed eating meat every weekend. So it's being really congruent, and it's a lot easier to market if you're just being the one consistent person the whole time rather than having to switch hats every 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So it also comes down to the trust, building trust through your customer base.
Exactly, and if someone knows that what they're actually buying, they're getting, there's good follow-up, it's just all consistent, they feel a lot better about their purchase and they're more likely to recommend you as well.
Yes, so if your brand is really something that you're passionate about, it's an easy sell.
Exactly, you don't have to do the big sales pitch, and a lot of people are scared of sales and think it's a bit cheesy, and they think of the car salesman and real estate agent, that sort of thing. But if you're really consistent with your brand, it's easy because you're living it every day.
Yeah. Okay, Nick, well, social media these days is having a huge impact on startup businesses. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so obviously the last few years, as soon as you start a business, everyone's like, you've got to be on social media, you have to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram now. And I think what's been forgotten is the fact that you really need a database so that you have always got control over who it is that you're marketing to.
Okay.
A really good example of this is recently there was a startup blog. She was just a mum doing it as a hobby, had a blog and a Facebook page with 82,000 followers. Because she had such a great following, she decided to turn it into an actual business and had to change her Facebook page name. What happened was Facebook didn't like the change, closed down her page, and all of a sudden she's just lost the 82,000 followers and has no way to get in contact with them and let them know that she's changed her blog at all. So It just shows how important it is to have a database so that no matter what happens with social media, you can always contact your customers.
So in an instant, she lost her business.
Exactly.
So, and also having that database, you can individualise and personalise your messages through to your consumers.
Exactly. It gives you a lot of data. So using a program like MailChimp or Aweber, you can actually track who's opening your newsletters, how often they're opening, what links they're clicking on. You also know when people have been purchasing from you. So you can really customise what you're sending out and how often that you're speaking to your customer as well.
And in the process, I guess, as your business builds, it comes back to point number one of identifying that customer.
Exactly. And it also helps you see that you're on the right track. So once you start collecting your database and seeing who's on there, it just goes back and links to your customer, and you can make sure that you're on track there.
So in summary, if I identify my key customer down to a T, if I ensure my brand is not contradictory, so personal brand and business brand, and finally, I don't solely focus on social media output, but build that database, I've got a pretty good marketing strategy there.
Exactly, and it's also going to be a lot cheaper in the long run, so you're saving dollars too.
Even better. Terrific. Well, thanks for joining us, Nick. Now, if you would like further marketing information to drive your startup business, head to nicoladore.com.au for worksheets, recommended reading lists, and an appointment with the one and only.
Thanks, Ray.
As always, please feel free to share A Better You and Me with your friends and join the conversation, #A Better You and Me. Until next week, take care.